And I think if you're a business owner, whether you're just starting out or whether you've been going a little while, you absolutely must understand marketing.
Today we have Rob O'Byrne, the CEO of Logistics Bureau. Welcome, Rob.
Hi.
Rob, you've got a bit of an interesting story. Give us a bit of a rundown of some of your background.
Oh, it's varied and checkered. I suppose it really sort of started at about the age of 15 when I was thrown out of a rather expensive private school in the UK, which was somewhat disappointing for my parents. And it was almost a case of go to jail or join the army. Not quite, but it sort of felt a bit like that. And I ended up joining the army at the age of 15. And that's kind of where I got into logistics. So I now run a logistics consulting business. But my parents were a little bit hacked off because the bit that I joined was in logistics, but I specialized in explosives and ended up doing a bit of bomb disposal as well. So that didn't please them too much.
Wow, yeah,
And
it's
I
high risk,
loosely
isn't it?
refer I loosely refer to my time for a couple of years as a nuclear rocket engineer. I did actually have to look after nuclear rockets,
That's
but I'm not a
phenomenal.
rocket scientist.
And you did you have any near-death experiences?
Yeah, probably more than I should have actually. I'm glad that I didn't do too many operational tours in bomb disposal because I don't think I would have survived them. I was probably not one of the best at it. And I'm very impatient, which is not a good trait to have. So there were 3 occasions that I recall where I was probably lucky to get away with it.
Oh wow, wow. And so
It's like, I've had enough of this. Snip. Time to get home.
oh no! Oh wow, that's incredible. And it's almost like someone was on your side because if you cut the wrong wire, it's all over.
Yeah, that's right. Flip a coin. It's fine.
Oh wow! So then that led into logistics, did it?
Yeah, so I spent about 20 years in the military in logistics, and then it was sort of at the time the Berlin Wall came down, and they wanted to reduce the size of the army, and they were offering great redundancy packages. So I kind of packed up and came to Australia. Thankfully, a few years before that, the army had sponsored me to go to university and do a master's in logistics, which is not bad for a kid who got thrown out of school with no qualifications. And so I arrived in Australia. And 2 weeks after that, got a job with a consulting firm. So that was a lot of fun. And then I think it was 5, 6 years. I was a couple of years with that firm, and then I started up my own firm, Logistics Bureau. And then 5 or 6 years after that, I actually ended up buying the one that I had first joined. And yeah, kind of got the entrepreneurial bug and started a few more businesses as well.
Well done. And
Yeah.
so, where do you bring the most value to the marketplace now?
Oh, whoa. Yeah, that's a tricky one. So I guess my main gig is management consulting still, and we do that predominantly in Australia and Southeast Asia, but all over the world. And actually, we're recording this in what is it, November 21. So we're sort of just coming out of COVID, maybe. But the last 18 months has been incredible for us. The uptick in business has been amazing because supply chains have really been in the spotlight. So we've been doing a lot more work overseas. So that's my main sort of day job, if you like. But one of the other businesses I started along the way is actually a social enterprise based in the Philippines, which, if we've got lots of entrepreneurs listening to this podcast, you've probably come across the term VA or virtual assistant. So we started a business that provides virtual assistants about 10 years ago. And that's kind of my passion business because, like I said, it really runs as a social enterprise. It's a not-for-profit. And we just have a wonderful group of people there. And it's great to be able to work with them every day.
Yeah, fantastic. And so, Rob, what had to change in you personally that took you from, those early days of, cutting wires through to,
Mm.
successful businessman?
Look, I think one of the things, and in fact, I run a sort of entrepreneurial coaching program for our virtual assistants. And a lot of these questions come up, and the Filipinos are a little bit like a lot of cultures. They all like to have a bit of a side hustle and bring in a bit of extra money. And I said, well, hang on, let's just recognize that, and we'll kind of do this business coaching for everybody with their side hustles. Um, and these sorts of questions come up continually about that, and what changed and what makes a difference. And what I say to people is, kind of don't listen to others. I think, if I look back at the first 20 years of my life and then career, I was always holding myself back because I never thought I was good enough at things. And that probably started at school, where I was told I was stupid and would never amount to anything. Well, boo hoo, it
Mm,
didn't work out that way.
yeah.
Um, and I suppose it was really only after about 10 years in the army, as I was sort of going up through the ranks, I sort of thought, well, maybe I'm not as stupid as people kept telling me. And so I think that self belief really was very late for me. And I would encourage, I always encourage, sort of younger people in business to believe in yourself and get on with it. Um, and so I started my own first business at the age of 40. I was a real late starter. I don't think I'll start anymore. I'm 63 now, and I'm sort of, I think it's time to slow down a bit. But yeah, I think it's that whole mindset thing, which we've spoken about in the past, and really just having faith in yourself. And what's that great saying? You become like the five people closest to you. If your family and friends are sort of not motivated in business and to push on and strive for greater things, it's pretty hard for you to. So I for the last 15 years or so, I always hang around with people that I want to aspire to be like. So they're not necessarily multimillionaires, but they're running the sort of businesses that I like, and they're doing things that I want to aspire to.
Yeah, that's great. And what are some things that you've done or you teach to cultivate that positive mindset?
Yeah. Just having a go at things. It's amazing when we get our virtual team together, on a Friday afternoon, and we go through this sort of entrepreneurs Q&A, and they've got some amazing little businesses going on the side, and fantastic ideas. And I find half the time they just want the encouragement, that hey, you can really make something of that, and have you thought of this and thought of that? And we talk about the sort of businesses not to get into. And I think it comes back again to just mixing and being with people who have that sort of mindset.
Yeah, that's really good. So,
Mm.
could you give us one or two insights that really gave you the biggest and most dramatic growth curves for your businesses or business?
Oh, look, number one would be, it's probably 15 years ago now. I really got interested in marketing. Again, I was, very late starter to all of this. I was, probably 50. And I became a bit of a seminar junkie, and joined all of these programs on online marketing and stuff. So, I could probably start an online marketing consulting business now. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on, coaching for this stuff. But I just love marketing, and the whole psychology behind it. And I think if you're a business owner, whether you're just starting out or whether you've been going a little while, you absolutely must understand marketing. And really, it's mostly online marketing these days. So that made a huge difference to me, and just understanding what works, and what works today might not work tomorrow. Um, and I'm in a couple of online coaching groups for online marketing because, like I'm saying, I want to mix with people who are doing this stuff really well, and stay up to speed. And, it's quite funny being the old guy in the group, and I go, whoa, Rob knows this stuff. He's kicking goals. Yeah, I've been doing it a while. So, yeah, marketing is an absolute must. And I think also something for people who are really, in the early stages of their business owner career, delegation. You've got to learn to delegate. Don't micromanage. Just accept that people are not going to do a particular thing as well as you do. You're the OG. They're not going to do it quite the same. But if they can get 80% of it, right, well, that's probably good enough. And starting our virtual assistant business, which about 11 years ago now, that really boosted my consulting business. I hope none of my competitors are going to listen to this, but um, we were. I'm an over delegator now. If it can possibly be delegated, I'll delegate it because I can hire smart young people who've been professionally trained in this stuff. They're going to do a better job than me. And because of the structure that we have with our business in the Philippines, it's very cost effective just to put more people on, and that's a really good thing because we're giving jobs to people who need jobs. So it's a real win-win thing. So yeah, online marketing, delegating, absolutely, and having a confidant, I think, in business is really important. When I started out, I had a business partner for the first 7 years, and then we parted ways amicably. Um, I felt a little bit kind of lonely after he departed, but got used to that and lent more on my senior team at work, and now they're more like my business partners than employees. So I think that's really important too. Have good people around you, listen to them. You know, um, and sometimes you're not going to like what you hear, but allow that communication to happen because that's where the gems are going to come from. And good people want to be listened to and want to have their advice acted upon.
Yeah, that's some really good value advice right there.
Mm,
So,
mm.
Rob, what's been the most challenging event or part of growing with your business?
Trying not to work too hard. Absolutely. I still work almost 7 days a week. I mean, 5 full days a week, and then I dabble at things at the weekend. It's just ridiculous. It's because I have a passion for the business. I do a lot of the online marketing stuff myself because I enjoy it and I like learning about it and keeping up to speed with it. The reality is, I could probably run this business 1 day a week. And my challenge over the next few years is to get to that. Just there are better things to be doing with my life. Well, maybe not. But the work-life balance has been a real challenge for me always. A bit of a workaholic, but one of the things that I love to do, and I haven't been able to do because of COVID, is I love to go on long pilgrimage walks. So, if anybody listening to this has heard of the Camino de Santiago, you'll know what I'm talking about. So this is kind of like the Appalachian Trail or the Pacific Crest Trail for middle-aged people who like to stay in hotels.
I love it. I love it.
um, I mean, you can kind of rough it, but it's basically a wonderful. I've done 3 of them, which were 800 Ks, and next year I'm going to do 1,000 Ks. But basically, you put a backpack on and you stay in little bed and breakfasts and stuff like that, and you walk across the country to
Great.
Santiago, and it was great for my business the first time I did that in 2015 because I totally unplugged for 3 months, and I kind of found myself. When you're walking 8, 10 hours a day through the countryside on sort of little gravel tracks and things, you think a lot and you overthink stuff. And it really cleared my head about, priorities in life and what I should be doing. And I just became so much more chilled after that.
Yeah. Wow.
Nothing phases me now.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
just, I just don't get upset about stuff. Yeah, it'll be all right. We lost $1 million client. Well, that probably went right for us.
Oh, that's great. And so
Mm.
you would have had some interesting experiences on your trek.
Yeah, that's an amazing thing, and oh, look, we could do a complete podcast on that. But let me just share one story. And I'm not a religious type. I guess I'm one of those that you would call spiritual. So this is an ancient Christian pilgrimage. Pilgrims have walked it for 1,000 years, and it's hard not to kind of have some of that rub off on you when you're walking these trails. And I can remember on my very first one, I think I'd walked about 400 Ks already, and I was pretty down in the dumps. And my wife was looking after a sick father up in Thailand, and I felt like I'd had my 3 or 4 weeks off, and had had a great break, and I was feeling really guilty about being away for another 3 weeks, and people were looking after the business and all this kind of stuff, and it was a real emotional struggle. I thought, do I keep doing this for another 3 weeks, or do I go home? I think that, like, I should go home, and yeah, it was quite comical in a way, because I stopped at the side of this track in the middle of nowhere and kind of knelt by the side of the track, and looked at the clouds and said, "Okay, how does this work? I need a sign. Should I continue, or should I go home? Isn't this what you're supposed to do? And what happens? Does a finger come down? Do you give me some kind of sign?" And of course, nothing happened. So I was a bit despondent and continued on my way. I think I had another 10 k's to walk that day. And as I was walking up this track, this old shepherd was coming towards me, and we said "Buenos dias," "Hola," whatever. And as he walked past, I looked at him, and our eyes met, and whoa, this chill went up my spine, because the person I was looking at, the eyes I was looking at, was my father, who had died 12 years prior.
Wow.
You know how you recognize someone just from their eyes. The eyes are the windows of the soul, aren't they? And I looked at this guy in the eyes, and I said, "Whoa!" And I stopped. I thought, that was my dad. You know. And I looked around, and he'd stopped 50 meters along the track, and looked around, and he kind of waved, and off he went. I thought, "Whoa, what just happened there?" And I was kind of pondering this, and then a couple of minutes later, my phone rang. No one called me. No one had my number except my wife, and we would have a brief chat on Skype, each morning or something like that. It was my wife calling from Thailand, and she said, "Oh, how you going?" I said, "What the heck are you calling me for?" She said, "Oh, just thought I'd check in on you. How you going?" And I said, "Well, I was a bit down in the dumps, but nice talking to you." And so we had a bit of a chat for a couple of minutes. And how's Dad? He's fine. I said, "Oh, I was thinking of coming home." And she said, "No, no, no. You finish the walk. You do it for us." And oh, great. So feeling a bit more pumped now. And then a couple of minutes later, I hear this crunch, crunch, crunch. Someone walks up behind me, and I get this slap on the back. And it's a guy that I hadn't seen for 2 weeks, further back on the trail, Rob from Melbourne, if you're watching. And he said, "How you going, Rob?" Full of beans. I said, "Pretty good, actually." And we chatted for a couple of minutes, and off he went. He's a lot quicker than me. And I just stopped dumbfounded. I mean, you could interpret that story however you liked, but I was absolutely down in the dumps, about to go home, and asked for help, show me a sign, and within 5 minutes, those three things happened. You know,
Wow. Wow. That is, yeah, that is
yeah,
incredible. And so that's, and when you came back to work,
mm.
you were a different person from that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, fundamentally the same person, but a very different outlook. Those sort of walks really do change you in many different ways. You become far more accepting of other people. You don't judge people as much, because you meet people from all over the world, all different walks of life. And it's kind of human nature. We judge people too much on first impressions, but when I mean, I met this one guy, lovely Irish fella. He looked like a bricklayer or something, and we just met on the path, and we're chatting away, and broad Irish accent. Oh, he's a lovely guy. And I said, "Oh, what do you do?" He said, "Oh, I'm at a seminary in Cork. I'm going to be a priest." you know, Would never have guessed it.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so then I guess, Rob, with all of your business experience and with this experience and combining
Mm.
that together, what advice could you give business owners or CEOs who really want to break through to their next level?
Oh, look, there'd be so many things. Make sure you're in the right business, that it's a business that you've got a passion for. I think a lot of people kind of learn something new. They think, "Oh, this is great. I can turn this into a business. I'll be a coach for this." And unless you have a passion for it, unless you've got the knowledge for it, and the energy to do that, year after year, I'd have a very careful think about it, because you've got to sustain yourself through the good times and bad times. Another thing would be, don't get distracted. I mean, I've probably started another 10 businesses over the last 20 years. Some of them are still going. Some I what's that great saying? Fail early and cheap, or something like that. Some of them they ran for a few months, and I thought, nah, bad idea, close them down. One I ran for 7 years because I just enjoyed it, and it never really sort of made money. Never really made a profit, and finally my CFO said, "How much longer are we going to do this?" Yeah, right, we'll close that one down. So don't be the magpie that keeps going for the bright shiny objects. Building other businesses is great, but try to make sure that they complement your existing business, or that it's complementary skill sets that you've got. Um, Having said that, I started a social enterprise in the Philippines, but it was kind of related. So yeah, don't get too distracted. Definitely learn to delegate. Get a good team around you. I mean, if you're new to business and you're a new business owner, all of that routine stuff that takes up 20 hours a week for you, you should not be doing that. Get yourself a virtual assistant. You get a virtual assistant for about $1,000 full time, per month. It's amazingly cost effective. So, yeah, delegation really important. An obvious one, just really look after your customers. Um, it was quite amusing, and my very first customer was given to me by a colleague. I mean, that sounds a bit odd, being given a customer, but I just started the business, and this guy had to go off to China for a project for 3 months, and he said, "Oh, look, Rob, could you do this little project for this new client?" He said, "It's just a $5,000 job. It's already been quoted. Sorry, but if you could look after them and do this project." So I said, "Yeah, that'd be fine." I really made sure I looked after them. I didn't have the heart to tell him that I billed $600,000 with that client in the first 12 months. Uh,
I love it.
but I actually met him 10 years later. He came to one of our events. I said, Kerry, I said, "I've got to tell you this. I've been carrying this for 10 years. And he went, "Oh, that's hilarious."
Oh, exactly. Because like,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. Like, if customers are experiencing value, that they will keep coming back.
Oh, they just keep coming back. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, we have an enormously high repeat business rate in our consulting business. So, we have very effective marketing. So we have no outbound sales at all. We just react to inbound demand. But we're kept fairly busy with our existing customers all the time. So those new clients come in, and that just tops up the capacity for the team.
Fantastic. And so, Rob, if you could go back 5 years and give your slightly younger self a bit of advice,
Mm,
given where you're at in business right now,
yeah.
what would you tell yourself?
Don't work so hard. Get a life. um, and it's hard for me because my kids are grown up. I've got grandkids. There isn't that pressure at home to stop working. Dad, the kids are coming home from school. Um, so I have a very poor sort of discipline with regard to that. So definitely work shorter hours. It's hard when you like what you're doing. Um, Definitely. Only 5 years ago, I was going to say delegate a lot more, but I was already doing that then. And probably have a longer term vision of where your business is going. I think, if you're in your 30s or 40s, or even 20s, and you're starting a business, it's very hard to kind of look 20, 30, 40 years ahead. Where's this all going to go? Because you're just thinking, I want to survive till next week. Let's hope the cash lasts till the end of the month. And it's all very immediate. But you soon know within the first year or so, if you're on a winner or not, and start planning really far ahead. Succession planning. Who's going to take over this business? How am I going to ease back and have someone come into the business? Am I going to try and sell the business? So I think having that longer term vision is really important.
Yeah, that's really good because then you actually start putting things in place, like
Mm,
delegating, like
yeah,
systemizing, like doing things earlier than you necessarily would
absolutely.
otherwise, to
Yeah,
get yourself out of the business. Whether you end up exiting or not is an entirely
yeah,
different question. But
yeah,
you at least have like you
yeah,
said, you could run your business, a day a week if you wanted to, but you
yeah.
enjoy it.
Yeah, and hey, the definition of that I love is, do you have a business or a job? could you go away for a month and would your business continue without you?
Mm,
I go away for 3 months,
that's great. That's
totally
fantastic.
unplugged. So
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
definitely got a business, not a job.
That's good.
Mm.
And finally, Rob, who can you best help? And if they want to get in touch, how can they reach out to you?
Oh, look, my day-to-day job is working with big corporates, helping them with supply chain and logistics. So, if any of your viewers, listeners are in that category, by all means. But I think what's probably going to be a lot more appropriate for your audience is probably helping out with virtual support. And if you just want some information and you just want some tips, I've got a whole YouTube channel on it. I can give you some resources to have a look at it. If you have not looked at it, as an absolute game changer for small business owners. To I I would I wouldn't be able to run my business without that team these days, not in its current form. I mean,
Yeah, that's
I hate to
great.
confess this. I have a team of 8 just looking after me. I've got an executive assistant who is brilliant, totally manages me. I've got 2 full-time video editors. I've got a writer. I've got social media manager. Web developer, and 2 social media managers. It just goes on and on.
Fantastic. That is really good.
Yeah.
And Rob, what's the best website that they could reach out by or through?
Probably, go to virtualdonewell.com, virtual done well, or the best place to find me is always on LinkedIn. Just look for Rob O'Byrne on LinkedIn.
Great. And we'll put that link around the
Yeah,
video. So that'll be
yeah.
great. Rob, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate your insights.
No, it's a pleasure talking to you. I love talking about this stuff. So if anybody wants any tips, feel free to reach out. And, we'll have a chat on Zoom.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Rob.